Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the prayer room to the boardroom. We are in the superhero battle room. No buttons today. We're going to allow the sun to set a little bit, but we have a unique guest. We're going to bring RG Anon, and she will correct me if I got the last name wrong. So we usually don't get active duty people, but this is the first time I've had an active duty person that's doing both at the same time, making that war hero to superhero transformation. Currently serving, jobbing it out, and now going over and making that transformation before, because that's what we want to do at Learn and Live, which is the brand behind the podcast, is for you to make that war hero to superhero transformation. So we're very honored to have her on, and she's going to share her story from the active duty perspective. So RG, do I have you?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a fantastic privilege to have one of my first active duty soldiers. I usually don't get them. I'm usually the young pup, but this time around, you might be a little younger than me. I hide the gray well, but we'll go into that later. All right, so we're going to go talk about your little backstory about what inspired you to join the military.
So as far as like inspiration, I want to say like my journey to joining the military is very untraditional, because like I'm my job in the Navy is about customer service and like helping people with their like benefits and their money stuff. But like so far, whenever like somebody would check into the command, I would usually ask like why did you join the Navy? And typically the answers that I would get from younger people is that they want to have a stable job, and that like they're young, so they want to do their time and pretty much finish it. And with like the people with like of the older age, when they join, typically what they look for is stability, in the sense that they weren't able to find that outside of the Navy, and especially benefits not only for themselves but also for their family. But to me, when I joined, I didn't really know anything about all those stuff. I finished my bachelor's degree before I joined the Navy, and then essentially, um, I finished my degree, but I finished it from another country. So during that time, I wasn't a citizen yet. So my dad was telling me, he was basically suggesting that like, why don't I explore joining the military? Um, Simply because like one, it's a good stable career, but also it provides you the citizenship that you would normally have to wait like 5 years. If you wait it out outside of the Navy, for example.
Yeah, that is the beautiful thing. I think we have about 25,000 a year that come in to go over and to enlist across the branches. So I love how we bring the diversity of the world to the military, and they still want to go over and highly honor the United States at the same time. I met very few
Yeah.
people that have not finished their enlistment and not get their citizenship. It's always the other way around. If you just meet a naturalized citizen, it can take years to decades. So that's the beautiful thing about the military. So that's really cool. And hopefully you finally got credit for your degree, because I know it's very difficult to get the United States Department of Education to look at degrees from different countries. I knew a lot of
Yep.
people from the Philippines. It was very hard for them to become officers because they had bachelor's and masters, but the USDE didn't honor it. So then they had to go back to school again. So hopefully you've had that conversion since then.
I did, but I didn't really like focus on it because I was just like trying to like do other things outside of the military. Like don't get me wrong, I love the job. I love the reason why you joined. I think it's very patriotic in the sense that you're not only like helping to better yourself, but ultimately, you're there to protect the country. And to me, being in the United States, it's a very, very, it's a very, very good opportunity, but also it gives me so much of that gratefulness vibes because it helped me grow as a person, and it allowed me to do a lot of things that I wouldn't have been able to have the opportunity to do so if I was, let's say, if I was still in the Philippines, for example.
Yeah, that is the beautiful thing that you actually see, that a lot of our active duty soldiers can get caught up in just the tyranny of the job and not realizing all the benefits and the blessings that are in there. So what made you go over and make the transformation early? Like you haven't made the actual transformation for veteran. You haven't left the service yet, but you're already grinding it out and double grinding. Like most veterans I go over meet, it's 3 to 6 years after the service, they start seeing like, oh,
Oh,
to a job. And then now I might want to jump into a business or, hey, I might want to start those things. So what made you start the journey early?
so to me, the journey of like, like having, I guess what you would say, an exit plan, it's not really about, an exit plan to leave the military per se. To me, because my degree is in information technology. So I started my college when I was still like, I was only like 17, or so. So, like I started pretty early. Um, and then but before that I was already in, like I see technology as a big opportunity, and like is it's one, it's a big opportunity, but two, it's also exciting that you get to build stuff, um and like you can do it just by simply typing or doing something on the computer. So to me, when I started our business, so right now we have multiple businesses. It's me and my wife who manages it. And then to me, what really got me started is that I'm very passionate about technology. And I see that like it gives me the fulfillment whenever I help, for example, small businesses or entrepreneurs when they get the success that they're looking for when it comes to like digital marketing per se.
Yeah, that's huge. I think that's probably one of the biggest barriers of vetpreneurs. That's the branding when you get out of the service is marketing. We can know how to connect in the sense of face to face, but when it comes to that digital presence and how to take that 3 second scroll and get someone's attention or going over in that 15 seconds on that website in that F shape and people go like, nope, boring. And you could have the best thing since sliced bread, but if they don't go over and get it, and especially it's a blessing to have you all in the younger generation to help us younger or older in that digital marketing. So it's really cool that you're starting it early and then getting it set up so you don't do the things that we did is like, hey, we get out of service and then we're like, oh, you went through all these trials and all these pains. And it's the best time because you got the safety net of active duty and you're like, first and 15th, I can have a fallback in case I have that mess up. I remember
Exactly.
when I got out and I tried to do my degree when I was trying to do a little fallback. This was about 6 months prior, and I was doing digital design. I was trying to learn web design 2012, but the military wouldn't let me finish the degree because oh well the degree ends after your enlistment, so you can't finish it. So I had to pay
Yeah,
$900 per paycheck back for the next 5 paychecks. That was
yeah,
the only time I had a buffer, and I didn't realize how much money I made. I'm like, how did I was able to pay $900 a paycheck out? But I realized I made that much that I could have a
yeah.
buffer. When I got out of active duty, totally different. There's no way I could handle a $900 a paycheck bill.
Oh yeah.
So I see the wisdom that you're going over and doing, and I'm hoping that the audience goes over and gets that. It's like, hey, you can start now, especially if you're doing
Yep.
digital products, nights, weekends, holidays, and whatnot to do that. So with that, our next question is how do you balance between the mission and your future vision? I kind of wish I got that sooner, but how are you doing it now, balancing full-time work and now full-time vision that you're doing with these websites and digital companies?
So to me, it's like the way I think about it is that like well, I have this passion while I'm making money outside of Navy. Well, that's all good and dandy. Like to me, I still have my contract, which means I have to do my best on a daily basis. And I know it sounds really corny to say that, but I know a lot of people who usually would just like try to like not even earn the paycheck. They would just go to attendance, do a little chit chat here and there, and then they would just go home. This unfortunately that's happening. But to me, I'm raised by both my parents, and they both have very strong work ethics. And I grew up with seeing my mother, for example. She has a government job when we were still in the Philippines, but then on the side she also has this, a business, and it came to the point that her business was making more money than her actual government job. but still she didn't stop, producing quality work when for her job. So to me, like the balance is just all about not being greedy on one side and just being able to like be better at the mission, aka our main job in the military. Because as you get better with your job in the military, um, you get better at being good at something, and that ultimately translates to being good at and like being able to have more resources, build more connections that could help your future vision. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, you sound like the Tony Robbins of the military in a sense, a serial entrepreneur. You just go over and get good in that lane and stay really focused so you can just go over and then once you get and you probably compartmentalize very easily compared to me. Me and compartmentalizing are not friends. I'm more like a boxes are scattered everywhere. So that's a beautiful thing. And I love the ethnicity and the cross cultural things that you take that you've learned and say, hey, here's the best of the Philippines and what my family has taught me. And now I take the United States on the entrepreneur side, you're setting yourself up. That is really cool. I know me personally, I can't do that, but I give you kudos that you can go over and your family could balance that both. Because I would be dying inside if I'm a baller on my business and I'm making chump change on the government. So I give you kudos to go over and to balance that both while doing that. All right. So with that, probably a little the same sort of question. I didn't know they were going to blend together, but what made you pivot to serve two missions while on active duty? I think you kind of tied it in that last question, but did you go active duty first and then say, hey, so many years you tied it in, or was it like right from the get go?
So it's more of I was already doing freelancing projects, and I've also been hired by like different agencies before I joined the military. So I started doing websites, for example, at like a really early age. I wasn't even at school yet, but I already knew how to build websites, for example. And I did that through like honestly just reading books, because back then like YouTube wasn't really a thing. And then like at school they would teach us how to code and all that stuff. But essentially, what made me think about for setting up this stuff on the side is basically I just had this mindset that like I think like that in my brain, I was telling myself I can do it. So, but the way I did it was very untraditional. So, I finished my degree in the Philippines. So, while I was there, I was making connections while I was still in college. And then those connections that I have, basically my classmates in college, what I did was save my Navy paycheck. And then whatever extra I have, I would save that towards hiring them to code the apps, for example, that I have, or like the websites that I need to be done, and then I would I would have it paid by like U.S. based businesses based on U.S. dollar values, and then like you just keep going from doing that, and then so yeah, like instead of like learning how to be good at coding, for example, I shifted, and then I said okay, like instead of like learning the how, I figured out how to find the who. So I knew back then who was like great at like coding, for example, from our school. I knew who weren't so great, for example, but they're willing to take the challenge and also do the research so they can accomplish the job. So like it's more about learning how to hire and like managing a project than actually doing the work. So then I focus more on making connections and then like marketing and sales here in the US.
That's like huge in that particular. These are decades of lessons that you have way early. You got to teach a master course on this particular card because most people go over and wear the multiple hats for years while growing their business. And 67% of businesses in the United States are under $250,000, usually under 50 employees, and they can never scale because they don't learn it. It's like, all right, the biggest thing in the power is your people. When you have great people and then you can put them in the projects and skills and capabilities that they have, that's how you can do that. Like Tony Robbins runs 81 businesses. I didn't know that until recently, but
I didn't even know that.
he knows how to go really get the funnel up and rolling, get it managed, and get your people, empower your people, and then go over and then just give someone that really does grow at management, and then he can just own, and then he can then funnel the next business. So like I said, we'll be probably seeing you in Forbes magazine in 15 to 20 years or even faster. Maybe you'll get on there. So this is really cool. So let's go to the tough times, because there's always tough times. Doesn't matter if you're active duty or an entrepreneur or whatnot, vetpreneur, you have both. So what's your secret fuel with the pressure when the tough times come? Because both jobs are not a 9 to 5 job.
So to me, it's all about managing your time and like finding out again, the who, because you're gonna be feeling so pressured with entrepreneurship if you choose that route, for example. But then you also realize that being in the military is very stressful as it is every day. Like our job is not like any of your traditional 9 to 5 job. For example, like in the Navy, like you could be attached to a ship, you could be there for 24 hours, you could be working, I don't know, a 12 to 18 hour job, and then your only break time is your sleep. Like I've um I've experienced that. And is it easy? It's not. But what kept it going for me is like finding out the who, because like once you're able to trust the who, aka your people, then it's much more like your stress during those tough times is much more manageable.
I think that's very profound, is knowing your who, so you can get the pressure and tough times off. Because when you have a multitude of people, projects, and community in military is so much easier. So man, just wisdom bombs. Hopefully my AI catches this on the reels after this. So let's go into our final question that we asked everybody, and then we're going to go over and talk more about your businesses overall and let you close out this show. 3 superhero tactics. So going back from maybe when you got in the military or maybe working with some of your clients, what tactics do you give them to go from surviving to thriving?
So like if it's about like business owners that I've served and would love to serve, I think superhero tactic number one is like to be more of an open-minded person, because there's so many technologies, there's so many strategies nowadays that if you're too locked into like one thing, and it's going to be so hard for you to shift that mentality, and you're not going to be able to move forward if you're stuck with that kind of mentality, for example, or that kind of strategy. Number two, always take care of your branding, aka how you talk to people, how your brand is perceived by other people or by your potential customers, how you sound to them, and all that stuff. Because branding is not just all about logo and colors. It's all about your tonality as well, your positioning, your messaging, everything that's related to what you do and how it's perceived on the outside is basically what branding is, if I have to explain it anyway. And I guess number three is take care of your organic first before you deal with paid, aka and like it also translates with like being in the military, like before, because like before you go, because in this like in the entrepreneurial side, bef- like you have two options. You can go organic, aka you don't pay for anything for ads for your stuff to be put in front of your dream clients, but also that's your organic. But your paid is basically you just pay Facebook, for example, or Google, or whoever ad network there may be, and then they can get your message in front of those people. So I think if you take care of your organic, it goes a long way. So if you translate that to the military side, for example, if you take care of, like, I see it as like if you put in the work, like what people can see they will see you, they will see you for the true you. Then like what what like how good or bad you look on paper compared to like what you're actually putting in. Hopefully that makes sense.
I think that's huge in that particular regard because a lot of times we think marketing goes over and saves us. And no matter what it is, it's like if somebody's uplifting me, that's going to save me in my career. Or, hey, I'm just going to go pound Facebook and spend $350 to $500 a month. I almost went homeless just trying to do the paid marketing when I first got out of the service. $500 a month
Holy shit.
was getting my book out there, and my book wasn't even going to my target audience, and my brand was going to target audience. And the company's like, oh, we thought you targeted all people 18 to 65, male and female. I said, I'm doing marriage ministry at the time. That's not even close to who I want to target.
Yeah.
And I was paying $500 a month. It was like 5 months in. And I'm like, I'm liquidating my severance because of that. So I think that's huge wisdom. It's like anything else. It's like your net work is your net worth, and utilizing that to the max until you're basically tapped out, and then go over and blend that with there. So I think that's really huge in that particular regard. So thank you for the amazing superhero tactics in the interview. I'm going to let you close it out to tell us a little more about these two websites. And then if you got a good quote or something you want to close us out, and then we'll go to credits. So the floor is yours, RG.
Awesome. Thank you. So basically, rganzon.com is all about branding, and that's where I share my insights about branding and digital marketing. And enzomedia.com is essentially my agency. This is where I serve the small business clients that I've had the opportunity to serve. And we do a lot of things over there. So we do web design, we do local SEO, we do reputation management, we do digital loyalty programs. Think about your punch card that you get from a coffee shop, for example. But then ours is a little different because it's something that your customers can install on their Google or Apple Wallet, and they can never lose that card. And guess what? You can always remarket to them because that card is already installed on their wallets. And lastly, we also do payment processing. So think about Square, for example, like when you're out and about, you're tapping and all that stuff. But as a business owner, you probably pay around 3 to 5% worth of transaction fees each time somebody types, or enter their card information details. So, but what we do is we shift that transaction fees around. That way, you as a business owner won't have to pay that. So basically, now it's all about getting as much, like dimes to like dollars onto your bank account instead of paying these things left and right. So I would really invite anybody who's interested in entrepreneurship, and if they have any business that they need a consultation for, I'd be more than happy to give that to your audience.